This course is actually aimed to equip the participants with the skills, knowledge, and tools needed to build interactive, responsive, and visually appealing user interfaces. So some of the objectives of this course include understanding the role of front-end development, like learn the process of front-end development in the overall web design and web development process. Secondly, we look at HTML mastery, hypertext markup language. So we are expecting at the end of this program for participants to learn how to structure web contents using HTML semantics. Thirdly, and then we have the cascading style sheet proficiency. So the course is aimed at equipping participants with the ability to use CSS to design layout techniques like the Flexbox, Grid, and others. Lastly, JavaScript fundamentals. So this is to enable participants to understand and apply JavaScript to the inactivity of web pages. This course is designed for large audience that include participants with prior or no knowledge of application design and development. So the requirement for this course is basic or no at all computer programming skills. So, and then secondly, is for the participant to have the desire at the end of it to be a front-end developer. Then thirdly, seriousness, which means for you to be determined and put efforts and try to see yourself doing it. Because what we can only do with the short period of time that we have is to provide you with the basics and the guidance that you can do. So most of the work in this area that you need to excel, to read flying colors, will need input from you, will need your determination. And then lastly, one of the requirements is the English language, because the materials that are being designed for this course and other resources that will be provided will be purely in English language. So without further ado, let's look at the course outline. So we are going to be looking at the end of this course, the entire front-end development course. So we'll be looking at the introduction to front-end development. We'll be looking at user interfaces and user experiences. Next, we'll be looking at version control and collaboration, where we talk about each of them extensively and in details. So we will look at frameworks and libraries. Then we look at styling in depth using the CSS, advanced CSS, and all that. And then we look at responsive and modern designs. Of course, we are in an era whereby design is one of the factors that determine the success of your system. And then we look at back-end integration for front-end developers, performance optimization, testing and debugging, as well as deployment and hosting. When all this is done, when you are done designing your system and all that, so how do you deploy it? How do you host it to go online for other people to be able to use it? So we all look at that. So this morning, we will be talking about introduction to front-end development. So what is front-end development? A lot of people we keep hearing front-end development, and sometimes they hear back-end development. So what exactly is front-end development? So front-end development refers to the process of creating user interface and user experience of a website or a web application. Not only limited to web application, you can say even mobile applications, because presently, when you talk of software design and development and all the UI interface, we're always talking about mobile and web. It's not limited to that. We're talking about mobile and web. So it involves building the part of the application that users see, interact, and experience directly. So basically, like it says, the front end is the face of your application, right? Not only the face, Like when you're interacting with it, how does it behave? How does it behave? It's all part of the framework. It's all part of the front end, because a system, like a software system, is composed of a front end, which is the one that you see when you turn on your computer, when you're playing around on your computer screen. That's the part you see. We have the back end. The back end is where all the processing is going, all the transaction, all the logics are happening. That is the back end. Also, front end is also known as client-side development. What is client-side, if you ask? Client-side, basically, in software systems presently in this uh, software architecture that we have, whereby, for example, like let me take for example the e-commerce website. You all know we have the Jumia, we have the Konga, and all that. So the interface that you see when you open your browser and then search www.jumia.com, and then it appears, your browser that displays that visually appealing, design, the items, the products, and all that. That is the user interface. That browser is the client. Why is it the client? Because it is fetching the information from somewhere else, and that somewhere else it's fetching that information is the server. So we call that code that we call the development part that deals with that the back end development. Because when you go on your computer and then you type www.jumia.com, what happens is from your computer, anywhere you are, your home or your office, your computer now sends a command directly to Jumia's computer, Jumia's server, whether in the Jumia headquarters or wherever their server is. It sends command to there. So that is their server. So that's the server side. At your own end, it fetches that information and then it brings to you in your office, on your computer or your mobile phone. So that is the client side. So front end development is also known as a client side development. In essence, front end developers focus on client side of web development, ensuring that websites are visually appealing, functional, and responsive across all devices and browsers. Because the front end mostly run on web browsers, right? They mostly run on web browsers because the browsers are the client. They are the client because they do depend on the server to get information. So what are the key aspects of front-end development? Firstly, we have the user interface design. This includes visual layouts, the structure, and the organization of content on the web page. So basically, how you design your user interface for your software or any other of your application, like where you put your logo, where you put your buttons, where you put your text, those are the user interface design. Those are the user interface design. How do you put it? So front-end development, part of the aspect, so you tend to look at, okay, how do I put my logo? Where do I put it? Where does it look fine? And then the front-end developer uses codes to implement design provided by UI, UX designers. We also look at UI, UX. It's also another part of, very, very important part of front-end development. The user interaction and the user interface and the user experience. So secondly, that's the user experience. So front-end developers ensure that websites are intuitive and easy to navigate. What does that mean? If you design a software, or maybe like a system, a web system, you design it, but the system, it's very difficult to navigate around. Maybe only people that are professional in the industry, in the IT, that might be able to navigate your website. But a layman, a very, very layman, doesn't know how to navigate your system. Then there's an issue. Because the success of your system is actually being rated based on the usability, how friendly it is. Is it difficult to navigate and all that? Does it waste your time? Does it waste my time? Like, do I need to crack my head to navigate around your system? That's a factor. So user experience Focus on factors like loading speed. You see, very important. Loading speed, responsiveness, and overall usability. All these are key aspects of front-end development. So we are going to look at each and every of them. And then next, we have the interactivity. Front-end development makes web pages interactive using tools like JavaScript. Of course, in front-end development, when you don't talk of JavaScript, you are not really talking about front-end development. When you don't talk of JavaScript, because it's one of the pillars of front-end development. Then talk of features like animations, buttons, drop-down forms, and dynamic content are developed in phases, all that. So that is it. So it's all part of the interactivity. What I mean by interactivity is, you developed a system whereby there's a login. You provide your credentials, your login details, the username and password. If I enter a wrong username and password, it should be able to tell me that I entered a wrong username and a password, or wrong username or password, any of that. But when the system doesn't do nothing, when I enter a wrong username, it just doesn't respond. It doesn't do anything. How do I know what's the problem? So that's the interactivity, the responsiveness. How do I know? So it's very, very important for when you are designing your front end to put all those things into consideration. So the technologies that are used in front-end development include the HTML, which is the hypertext markup language. This defines the structure of a web content, such as the heading, the paragraphs, images, links, and others. So basically, when you're developing or designing a web system, when you're designing...
They are not on the same page. They're moving through the earth. What is front? This is where they are.
That must be network.
Network.
Yeah, that must be network later.
From them or from here. So where they are. What is front end development? So they are contained. So they are contained on the network. On the side of this network.
If it consists then everything is the higher tier. We have a network. It is broadcast. How we do broadcast? So next we are talking. Okay, now we are talking about the technologies used in front-end development. Number one, we have the HTML, the hypertext markup language. This defines the structure of web content, such as the headings, the paragraphs, the images, and the links. So these, they just provide the basic content, maybe the header, the footer, the sidebars, the main content, body area, paragraphs, and all that. And then next we have the CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. These provide styles to the web pages by adding colors, fonts, spacing, and layout. So anything that just to beautify your website, to beautify it by giving it colors, some animation, some letter spacing, line spacing, layout, and all that. The CSS handles that. We use the CSS for that. And then it also enables responsive design for mobile and desktop applications. Sorry, for mobile and desktop compatibility. So the CSS, it provides compatibility for mobile and web systems when you are designing them. And the next we have JavaScript. It adds interactivity and dynamic features like validating forms, toggling menus, or fetching data without reloading the page. For example, that example I gave you for login, so it's JavaScript that will tell you when you entered maybe a wrong username or password, it will JavaScript. You use JavaScript to prompt that. If there's any issue or maybe anything programmatically, so it's JavaScript that will make the website or make your system responsive. So next we have frameworks and libraries. So for the CSS that we talk about, the CSS have framework, have various types of framework, example of which is we have the Bootstrap, we have the Tailwind CSS, and all that. There are more types of framework for the CSS. So you probably, maybe based on your interest or the trend, you can choose one, and you can choose anyone and then specialize in it, develop yourself more on it. And then for the JavaScript also, we have another framework. We have some frameworks for JavaScript. We have the React JS, which is probably one of the most popular JavaScript framework. The React is used for web development, front end, as well as mobile development. React Native use that. Then we have Angular, we have Vue, we have others too. So this simplifies complex functionality in app development. Next, we have a version control. So what do you understand by version control? Sorry.
You should transfer stats, stop sharing, like close the slides and share again.
Sorry for. All right. Let's go.
Let me share this now.
Can share it now.
Are we?
Yes.
Are we on the same?
All right. So the next is a version control. So version control basically means that it's a form of collaboration whereby when you're working on a software system, you're working on a system, but there's a large number of it's a very very complex system. So because it's complex, you have a team, maybe probably a team of developers, front end developers, and each and every person is working on something at the same time. You know, it's working on something at the same time, or maybe the tasks are being delegated to somebody. Somebody is working on maybe let's say, for example, the home page. Somebody is working maybe in the form, different part of it. So at the same time. So the version control is basically like a repository, or let's say it's a repository that keeps track of whatever everybody do, anybody that is part of the team, any code he makes changes to, any codes he added, any codes he removed. There's a central repository that takes track of all that. So the central repository takes track of all that, everything that happens, anything, any new development, anything. So just basically, so when there's a need for any change, or when there's something that has been done, maybe that needed to be done, it will be able to be known which particular person did this, where do we get the error. So basically, that's the version control, and it keeps track of the changes. That is why it's called a version. That's why it's called a version control. If there's any update, for example, to the system, it will keep track of the update, when the update, when the update is being done, who made the update, when was the update done. So it takes track of all that. So different versions of the system. So now let's look at the responsibilities in front-end development. So one of the responsibilities in front-end development is building and maintaining web layouts and design. Like we mentioned earlier, it's building and maintaining web layout designs. Second responsibility in front-end development is ensuring websites are responsive. We talk about responsiveness of the website. So I'm trying to see how the application or the system or the website, whatever it is that you're working on, how well does it work on different devices and screen sizes. Because you can develop an application or a system, of course, it will run perfectly fine on a computer screen, on a website, on a computer screen browser, but when you load it on a phone, it will not be able to accommodate on the phone screen. However, we have what we call the responsive design, where you can just build once, you can build a system. It's the same website, but it can fit in every screen, whether be it mobile, tablet, or computer screen. Yes. So another responsibility in front-end development is debugging and testing browser capabilities and performance optimization. So debugging and testing for browser compatibilities. You might see that it's something I've experienced. There are some applications or maybe some systems that will be developed. Maybe, yes, you see they run perfectly fine on Chrome. However, when you go to Internet Explorer, you have some issues. Whether it's form, maybe filling the form, you have some challenges, or maybe loading some content from your page. It doesn't work fine on Internet Explorer. However, it does on Google Chrome or the vice versa. I've experienced that severally. So that is actually one of the responsibility of a front-end developer, a very good front-end developer, to look at, okay, does it work well in Safari? Okay, does it work well? Does it work perfectly well as desired in Chrome? Does it work perfectly fine in Mozilla? All the browsers. So it has to check browser compatibility, because when you develop a system, maybe when you are developing, you were only using Chrome, or let's say Opera for your development, and everything is coming out perfectly fine for you. But when the system is launched, somebody is using Mac, it's loading it in Safari, and it's not working well. So then there's a problem. I might say maybe your system is, let's not say you have failed, but your system has a tendency to fail actually. Yeah. So next we have collaborating with designers, back-end developers, and stakeholders. So it's all part of the responsibility of a front-end developer. So as a front-end developer, of course, you have to be collaborating with designers. So yeah, so the people that probably will tell you, okay, that professional in design, okay, will tell you, okay, this color and this color, when you match it, this is what it means. It gives this kind of appeal, and all that. And then with back-end developers, because like I mentioned earlier, a software system, an online software system has majorly two components: the front end and the back end. So when you design a front end, of course, there has to be something at the back that will make it come to life, can give it some functions. So you have to work hand in hand with the back end developers for that, and other stakeholders, of course, probably the client and others. So you have to be, as well as users, as well as the target audience, you have to be interacting with them to know, because you cannot, you maybe as a tech savvy person, as a person that has been grounded in the industry, you cannot just design a system out of your own will. Maybe for people, for security people at the gate, maybe that would use, or for the other people, the level of your level is not the same. What you might be thinking is not different. So you might you might design a system to you. It might be easy and simple to use, but to them, it's actually something tedious to use. So you have to look at your audience. Who are the target people that will use this system? So you have to look in. You have to look at that into consideration. Interact with them. Know their level of all that. So let's look at some facts about web and application development. When the concept of the internet was new, web development was for the most part a purely functional data-centric endeavor. So what does that mean? It basically means that in the early 90s, late 90s, when the internet was new, the developers at that time, they are just centered on getting a functional system, right? How do you just send an email from one place to another? How do you fill a form? How they don't look at the aesthetics. How does it look? Okay, does it perform the function we want? Do I just come online and then type an email and then send? Does it go? Does that person receive the email? And all that. That was what they are mostly concerned with at that time. However, as that became no longer a problem, as at that time, user experience wasn't something that was considered in the early days. And there were not only tools in place to provide the level of aesthetics and variety. So as at that time also, there were no technologies, to beautify the design. Like we have the CSS, yeah, we have the CSS and all that, and the level different versions to advance the design. If you look at maybe websites in the early 2000s, maybe if you can probably maybe look at Yahoo's page, Yahoo.com page as at that time, you just see it's just Yahoo logo and then some text here and all that, you just see one boring something, one ugly something like that. So that was how it was as at that time. Nobody care about how it looks. They care about the function. Okay, about data. But now the looks has become so important. How it looks has become so important. Today, front end development plays a much larger role in web and application development. The way a user interacts with data has become a priority for developers. Absolutely. It's likewise, like 15 years ago, when you look at an e-commerce website, how it doesn't look the same with how present e-commerce websites look like. They don't look the same. They don't. Because at that initial stage, it was just the functionality. But now the interaction, how it looks, how appealing it is, how does it interact, right? Now there are some integration of recommendations using some AI features. For example, when you're looking for a very, very beautiful shoe, when you look for a particular part of shoe, then it keeps giving you recommendation for shoes, like it beautifies, a lot of things. The images, the way they are, the way they are displayed, the design, everything, so appealing. So why is front end development so important? It's important because first impression matters. First impression matters. So a website's front end determines how users perceive a brand or product. It is because, sorry?
They used to on some slide. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. Oh my God. I'm telling you, the thing is just crazy because they're still in this. I just want to describe this. They're still in this introduction. It's not okay. I'm trying to chat and I don't want to keep distracting. Whether she should tell them that we did this guys or something because the thing is stopping the class.
It is actually interrupting the class, and this is not too good. It's the network actually. Can you run a test on the network and see the network speed?
Meron,
Can you run a test on the network and see the network speed?
if it's better.
Yes, let's see the network speed.
Okay, okay, how do I do that? Sorry.
Please meet this guy.
Okay.
Sorry? And can you run a network test and see the speed of the network?
Okay.
Yeah. The devices.
Okay.
Sorry?
See what she said, don't understand. So you shouldn't completely go off. Then you just stop sharing. Just stop sharing and share again. That's what she said. Don't completely go.
Yeah, I should not completely go off.
Just like stop sharing, go to stream. I think it's here. Stop sharing and share again. Just stop sharing. Yes.
Okay, check. I didn't see. I'm not going completely off. I'm not going completely off. No?
219 kilobyte again.
290.
Kilobyte per second. Ba ta kai yake.
No?
Jani bi da ƙarfi.
That's the problem. The network. See, it's just 200 and
9 kilobyte.
290 kilobyte.
Ba ka ji?
Ba ka ji?
Even the screen service.
Yeah, it's not it's the network.
So you just open the hotspot.
Sorry?
Let's connect to it.
Then we have to, then we have to change. We have to enter what the system is running by one entirely. We have to move it to the same network.
Working process. Small solution. Stream. Just selection portion. You have to share the screen. See this.
Please share.
Sorry?
I thought
The screen is sharing.
no, the screen is sharing. It's broadcast by definition. No broadcast. No broadcast. No payment for that information. So please, this guy is there and
Okay, have you seen the screen before?
sorry?
Have you seen the screen before when you start?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You see the beginning of the screen properly, and then when I'm moving, then it doesn't move.
Sharing.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Like into the power. Then you give it yourself. Sit down with the
Can you hear the audio?
Yes, yes. It's fine. Should the entire screen, but that's how many should.
Okay. Okay, sorry for that break in transmission. Actually, our participants online were not following us, so we're having some network challenges with the broadcast. So initially, you said why is front end development so important? Uh, it is very important because, as it said, first impression matters. Hmm? How users perceive a brand or product is very, very, very. That is it. And then a well-designed interface increases user trust and engagement. Trust me, when the design of a website or system is very appealing, very nice and very, very beautiful, like number one, you as a user, you wouldn't mind spending so much time in that particular website. You don't mind spending so much time. And secondly, after spending so much time, you, it may keeps you coming back to the website or the system rather than one that is not appealing, aesthetic, some things you might just be want to, if it's something that is very, very necessary, you just want to do it and then quickly, zoom off. And then you don't even want to go back there. But if it's appealing, if it's very, very aesthetic, very, very beautiful, you can spend so much time there, you don't mind. You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know. You might spend so much time and then you also keep coming back. And then secondly, accessibility. Front-end developers ensure websites are accessible to all users, including those with disabilities. This is where the issue of user friendliness, usability, user friendliness, and all that. So there are some, when you make your design, maybe, less interaction, less human interaction is actually something that would keep your design very, very interesting to people. What I mean by less human interaction is, for example, you want to query your you want to query a certain information from a database, also maybe online. Maybe there's a particular pin, or maybe, for example, you want to query your information. I'm just giving an example. Maybe on a website, if you enter your name, it just pop ups. You don't need to press anything as long as your name is correct. It just pop up. Rather than, okay, you have to enter your name, then you have to go and click the button, and then it's. But when there is less effort from you, the system interact. It can be done whereby you just enter information you want automatically. As long as it's correct, it just get you, just fetch your information. So it's all part of the things that, as a front end developer, you need to consider the system and all that. Enhanced user experience. So intuitive navigation, fast loading, and interactive features improve user satisfaction. All part of it. How fast, is your system responsive? It's all in the design. It's all in the design. When you do code optimization, design and all that. Because the speed of your website or your system is actually dependent on the design. It's actually dependent on the design. So it's another thing. And then next we have the business success. User-friendly websites lead to higher conversation, sales, and customer retention. It was just like I mentioned earlier, you know, like the appearance or appeal, or how your website looks and all that, your system looks and all that, is a measure of determining how successful it is. That is the truth. How successful it is, because it will keep the people coming back. One, if it's that beautiful, that nice, so interesting and so catchy, it keeps the people coming back and all that. So next we are going to look at we've been talking about front end. look at the front end versus back end development. So front end and back end development are two main components of web development, as I mentioned earlier. So here's the breakdown of their differences. So the key differences include, in terms of focus, front end focus on user interface and experience, while the back end focus on the server side logic and database management. So front end entirely, the focus on front end, everything about front end you have to do about front end, it's focused on the user interface, what you see, what you interact with, and then the user experience, how easy the system is, how does the system respond, and all that is all the front end. However, the back end is the server side, like I mentioned, given an example of the e-commerce system. So when you interact, first of all, maybe with the system, maybe search a product, what it does from the front end, it sends a request to the server and then gets, so all that happens, it sends a request to the server, it goes to the database, it fetches that information that you are looking for. If it exists, it brings it back and return it and then display it to you at the interface. If it doesn't exist, it tells you it doesn't exist. All that processing, all that logic, all that things that happen within some split of seconds and all that are everything that is being handled by the back end. So the primary role is that when it comes to primary role, front end development builds interactive and visually appealing pages, like I mentioned. However, back end development handles data storage, processing, and security. When you talk of data storage, like for example, when you are filling a form online on a portal, so when you fill all your information, you put it through the front end, right? So when you send it, the data, everything, all your data that you input, that you filled in the form, it's being taken by the back end to a database somewhere to go and store it, right? Okay, if it's processing, if it's something, for example, something you want to process, for example, maybe you want to book an airline ticket. After taking it will search, it will process. Okay, you are looking for an airline. You're looking for a flight on Thursday, so date and time. From so place to so place. All those processing is being done by the back end, and then the security. What security means in this case is the system. Does the system have some loopholes? Can it be hacked easily? Right? Yes. Can unauthorized users have access to it? And so many other things. Can sensitive information, can they be retrieved and all that? So those are security. So all that one is being handled by the back end. All that one is being handled by the back end. So the languages that are being used in front end development, like we mentioned, we have the HTML, hypertext markup language. Then we have the CSS. It also stands for Cascading Style Sheet. And then we have JavaScript, which is used for interactivity of the website. While the language is mostly used for backend, we also have the JavaScript. But for the JavaScript, we have different frameworks. Like we have Node.js. We have we have Node.js and others as part of this. And then we have Python. Python is a popular programming language, right? Python is a popular programming language. We have a PHP, pre-hypertext pre-processing language, and then we have others too. So many of the scripting languages also, they are all used for back-end development. So for frameworks in front-end development, we have React. React is one of the most popular frameworks for JavaScript for front-end design. So most of the website, web applications, they use React. A lot of them, they use React to design and develop that. We have Angular, we have Vue, we have Bootstrap. And then for backend, the frameworks, most of them, we have Django, we have Express.js, Ruby on Rails, and others. So when it comes to outcome, front-end development, front-end development, what users see and interact with, that is just basically at the end of the day, all the stress, all the processing, all the everything that you do in terms of your design, the front end, at the end of the day, what you aim to achieve, what you stand to achieve, what you're expecting is what users see and interact with. That is all. What the users see and interact with. That is all. So for the back end development, what powers the functionalities the users rely on? You understand? What powers the users rely on? So basically, what this means is that, okay, what takes the information from where you are sitting in your house, in your bedroom, your sitting room, or your office? What takes that information that you are sending? Maybe is it a form you are filling? Is it an airline ticket you want to buy? Is it something you want to purchase online? Okay, what takes that information? From where you are to the server there. If it's payment, online payment, you want to make payment using your credit card and all using your credit card, everything. So the back end handles that. All this, that's why I say what powers the functionality. Everything functionality. So that is just what the back end is focusing on. That is what at the end of the day is focusing on. Functionality, security, and all that. Everything aside the interface, aside the design, aside how it looks like, that is what the back end is mostly concerned with. So when it comes to collaboration, front end developers work with designers and back end developers. So for a very perfect system, a very seamless system, front end developers actually have to work hand in hand with back end developers. Why is it so? Because you want to design we want to design and develop a system, right? Okay, so we have to get a front end designer. We say we need a front end developer. Okay, the front end developer. Okay, we have a back end developer. Okay, we want to design or develop a system that performs a certain function, that solves a certain problem. How do we do that? Of course, the front end designers will say, okay, let me do my part. Let me design how it looks. Let me design how it behaves. Let me design how it interacts. And then the back end developer will say, okay, let me see, okay, how does it takes information from here to here? How does it bring information? How does it secure that information? Security. Let me make it, how fast does it process information? But they need to work hand in hand. They'll be seen like so that everything when they come to fix the back end and the front end, it integrates seamlessly, right? It integrates and fits in seamlessly. Whereas when they work independently, okay, I'm a front end developer, right? I'm developing a system, but I don't know the back end developer. He doesn't know me. We are not in contact. We don't know. We just say, okay, we dance a system like this. I can design something, right? Yes, it's actually perfect to the solution we are looking for. He can design something. Yes, it's actually perfect for the solution we're looking for. But when it comes to integration, there are two different systems in terms of structure. There are two different systems in terms of structure. So it can be integrated. It cannot be merged to a single into a single unit. Then there's an issue. So that is why front end developers work also closely with back end developers. Also the back end developers work with database administrators, right? Because mostly all the processing, the security, and all that is being handled by the database operators, so and all that. So they have to work also together. So it's a tedious work. It's a team. When you're working on a complex system, a complex software system, You cannot do it alone as a single person. You have to have a team. That will determine mostly the success of your system. You have to have a team. You have to have a documentation. You have to design everything right from the requirements to design the system design. The flow charts, the ER diagrams, and all the necessary diagrams. So there should be documentation. So that is part of the documents that both parties use. Even if they are not going to, even if they are not going to be interacting, but they should have the same document to work with the same document as guide to be able to design the structure of the system, right? Hmm. So how does back end and front end work together? Okay, I think I've mentioned part of that. The front end collects user input and send them to the back end. The back end processes the data, interacts with the database, and send response back. So the front end displays the processed information to the user back on the yeah on the screen. That's the front end. Yes. So for example, on an e-commerce website, the front end shows the product catalog while the back end manages the inventory, the process payment, and ensures orders are placed. So basically that is the system software system. So let's look at tools for the front end development. Here is a categorized list of tools commonly used in front end development. One, we have the code editors. We have the Visual Studio Code. So basically, these code editors, they are used to write codes, using the HTML, like we mentioned. You write the HTML codes, the CSS, as well as the JavaScript. Everything, you use the code editors to write them. There are several code editors, different types. The choice is yours. You have to choose the one that you want. You have to choose the one that you want, the one that is comfortable for you, and all that. So there are a lot of them. These are just a few examples, but there are a lot of them to write your codes here. And then we have the version control. We have the Git that tracks the changes in code. For example, in your team, you can use, for example, GitHub. You can register your team in GitHub, create a project repository, and then everything, any part of your team, software development team does, it's being tracked there. If you change the logo in the front page, okay, we'll know, okay, member A changed the logo in the front page, okay, the color of the footer, okay, member C changed the color on the footer. If there's any addition, any subtraction, everything is being done. So these are, I mean, the major and popular version control system that we usually use is the GitHub. That's a popular one but there are others. So, but the popular that we keep using and everybody uses is the GitHub. So next we have the browser developer tool. So the browsers basically they are the type, they are the end. Let me say they are the end point where this front end system is going to run. So for your testing, when you're developing the system, you have to be testing it. So for cross platform seamlessness, you have to be testing on different browsers. So like the Chrome, the Firefox, Edge, Opera, Safari, and all that. So you can develop using anyone, or you can test. Like I personally, I remember some times ago I was developing a system, some management information system. I was using Safari. I was using Safari. However, some functions I came to discover are not working fine in Google Chrome. I thought it was a bug, and I couldn't. What is it called? It gave me tough time, like trying to debug. Initially, it wasn't actually the bug. It was the browser compatibility. I have to go back and then look at the CSS, and then the CSS and the JavaScript. Okay. Next, on the tools, we have frameworks and libraries. So for the frameworks, as a CSS, we have different frameworks for CSS. When we start looking at the CSS, how it's been, how you can work with it, program with it, develop with it. So we see the different CSS frameworks. So we have the Bootstrap, we have the Tailwind CSS, and all that. There are others too. So and then next we have for the libraries, for the JavaScript, we have libraries and framework. We have React. React is a very, let me say, I'm not trying to be biased on it, but React is a React is a very, for me, let me say, it's a very suitable framework. I use it for most of my tasks. And one advantage of React is anywhere you are, you can see, or you can have, or you can get a React developer. So you might have a lot of support. That's one of the advantage of it. So when you're stuck somewhere, anywhere you look at, you can easily get a React developer. So for React, you design a visually appealing pages, a system, your web system, even mobile applications. Use React Native. On the same family, you can use it to develop very beautiful and interactive user interface with React. We have Vue, we have Angular, and all that. These are not the only frameworks for JavaScript. There are others, but these are the one. I think React is owned by, I think it's developed by Facebook. Yeah, Facebook developers. Yeah. So still on the tools for front-end development, we have Figma. Figma is a prototyping tool. You know what a prototype means, right? Okay, prototype is like for you, like to design, to have like a design of how your product, yeah, how your product should look like before even starting to develop. For example, for architectures, for architecture, first of all, before you start building your house, of course you have to design, you have to model it to see how it looks. Even presently, there are some softwares that can provide 3D modeling to see how it looks. So same thing with also software development. Same thing. There are these tools that you have to look at design. You have to model it and see how does it look on a mobile phone. How does it behave? Everything. Design, the color, the sizes. The line spacing, everything before you even start the development. So you use tools like Figma. It's online. You can go figma.com. You can go on figma.com and then look at it. We have Azure, AXURE, AXURE.com too. Is a prototyping tool. Is a prototyping tool. It gives you a feel and look of how your system is. It's actually a drag and drop. These tools are drag and drop, so they are easy to use. You just say, okay, I want my logo here. Okay, let me put it here, drag it, put it here. I want this text to be like this. Just design it. And then after designing it like this and everything, that's when you decide to say, okay, I'm very satisfied. This is how I want my system to look at. So now let me go into the development. Yeah. So these are the tools, Adobe XD, Sketch. They're all for the prototyping. So let's look at the trends in front-end development. So front-end development is constantly evolving with new technologies. Actually, in the IT field in generally, things constantly evolve almost on a daily basis. Same thing with the front-end technologies and practices to enhance user experience and developer productivity. So those are one thing. Like now, one of the things the front-end development technologies that we use is we try to look at productivity. How productive can we be? You as a developer, okay, before there are tools, you just have to, like I mentioned, the tools like the first tool I mentioned was code editors, right? So you have to write everything from scratch. You have to write everything from scratch, from the HTML tag, HTML open close tag, everything you have to write line by line. So maybe you might take 2, 3, 4, 5 days to finish one page. But now there are some tools that probably you just have to, do some drag and drop, and then it will generate those codes. It will generate those codes for you. Yeah, they do exist, so they will generate those codes for you and all that rather than sitting writing. So that improves productivity. You finish, if you have a project, you finish it in time and then move on to the next one. When you cash out, you move on to the next one. You collect your cash, move on to the next one. So, and then it gives you time to have your free time, and all that. Because as I then sometimes ago, we can spend almost more than 48 hours sitting in one single place. Yes, I've done that severally. More than 48 hours sitting in one place. Trying to. So here are some of the top trends shaping the front end development today. So one of the trend is component based frameworks and libraries. Like we mentioned, the React, the Vue, and Angular continues to dominate the front end development. These frameworks allow developers to build reusable modular components, improving code maintainability and scalability. So we have server-side rendering and static side generation. Tools like the Next.js, also React for React, and then the Next.js are increasingly popular for faster page loading and better search engine optimization. It's another thing actually it's another thing actually in front end development, the search engine optimization. Yeah. So server-side rendering and static site generation enable content to be pre-rendered, reducing reliance on client-side JavaScript and improving performance. In the trends, we also have progressive web application. Progressive web application combine the best practice of mobile and web application, offering features like offline accessibility, push notification, and installation. There are applications now, software systems that are being designed. Now on your mobile phone, whether Apple or Android, you just go to the Android store, Play Store, or the Android store to download your application, like 45 MB, 50 MB, 180 MB. You download it, and then you have it on your phone, right? And then probably, and then for whatever, should I say, product you are using, product here, I mean, the solution you are using. Maybe, for example, be it is it. I'm sorry, I keep using Jumia. I'm not a Jumia person, but for example, the Jumia, they have a web system, right? That you browse from your computer, and then there's a mobile application. These things are developed separately. The mobile application is developed separately, mostly, and then the web application is developed separately, right? Yes. So one of the disadvantage of that is, of course, cost effectiveness, because you have to pay for two different projects, right? You have to pay for two different projects. But we have progressive web application. Basically, progressive web application. Basically, you just develop a single web application, right? But you have a let me say a kind of a link, kind of shortcut, kind of app. So once you open it on your mobile phone, it will create an application, an icon. Sorry, it will create an icon on your phone, right? So that icon, it's not you're not installing the application, but the icon. Anyway, anytime you tap on it, it opens the app for you. It's a web app, but you will not know it's actually a web app. You think it's a mobile application. You think it's designed purposely for mobile, but it's not designed purposely for mobile. It's a web system. It's a web system, but it's also run on a mobile phone, like a mobile application. You will not know, and it doesn't really consume the space, the storage on your phone. Sorry, something like that. Absolutely, yes. So, but it creates an icon, just like a normal icon. So that is a progressive web application. So tools like Workbox simplify building progressive web application. So next we have the motion user interface and micro interactions. Animation libraries like Framer Motion, GSAP, and Lottie are widely used to create engaging smooth animations and transitions. Of course, uh, those are one of the things that makes the front end so appealing. You know, the animations and then the transitions and all that. So yes, they actually beautify the the front end system very well. You know, before they don't really exist, and even if they exist, it's just like a normal, just something like not something very complicated and all that. Because presently there are some animations on transition. Sorry, the transition will happen on images. You will not even know. You'll be looking at the image, and probably you just see another image. Like your brain will not really pick when did this happen. You know, those are kind of the thing that it will keep you really like, is this trying to mess with my head? Is this trying to mess with my head and all that? Like it will keep you moving. So those are part of the things that keeps you interacting and all that. It will make you start doubting yourself. The transition, yes, now just make you start doubting yourself. Like, really, am I this thing? So micro interactions, example, button hovers, loading animations, enhance user experience. So when you're mobile applications, of course, we all know most of them they are online, so they interact with network. There are sometimes maybe you might want to load something from your mobile application. Maybe, for example, you want to load an image on Instagram. You want to open an image, but it's taking longer, probably because your network is not that good enough. How does it behave at that point in time? Does it just stay like that, or does it show you, something is happening? Okay, I'm trying to load something for you. It's all that kind of, that's micro interaction. Okay, when you hover over a button you want to click, maybe does it brighten, does it darken, and all that, all those kind of animation. Okay, how does the button behave, when you hover around, when you touch it? These are all kind of things. So it's sure, there are things that makes your system more makes it more aesthetic. So next we have the CSS advancement. So like we mentioned, CSS are used to style and beautify your website. However, for that too, there have been enhancement. So the CSS also, there are different versions, because there are upgrades. You know, they keep changing, upgrading, improving, and all that. That's one beautiful thing about the IT industry and the technology. So CSS in JavaScript solution, like emotion and style components, allow for dynamic styling directly in JavaScript. Modern CSS features like grid, flexbox, and clamps are now widely adopted. So first framework, utility first frameworks like Tailwind CSS continue to gain popularity for faster prototyping and customization. So next on the trend in front-end development, we have Java 6 evolution. Of course, JavaScript has evolved over time. So CS6 plus features like destructuring templates, literal, and async await are now essential. Modern tools like Vite for fast build and roll-up.js are replacing traditional builders like Webpack for their speed and efficiency. So speed and efficiency has always been one thing, because when a system is actually a bit slow, over time it tend to get you frustrated, tend to get you annoying and all that. So always speed is one thing that is being considered in the design development. So these particular frameworks like Divide and then the rollup and JS, they are improvements in JavaScript that tend to improve speed of loading application. Yes. So next we have a single page application, SPA, continues to grow, but the enhanced focus avoiding drawbacks like the poor SEO and slower initiatives. slower initial load back. So a single page application is actually common. I don't know whether some of you have noticed there are some websites you follow or system you visit online. You see that it's a normal website. When you open it, you see there will be, okay, contact us, home, about us, and all that navigation at tab. But once you click one, it will just scroll down. So all the entire system, all the entire development, the entire website is on a single page. Is on a single page. So, however, there are links, however, that will link you from here to here. The links, they do exist. They will link you from here to here to here, but everything is on a single page. Yes. So that actually focus on avoiding drawbacks like poor search optimization. So that actually improves search optimization and slower initial load. Because the good thing about this is once the website loads, maybe for the first time, it has loaded. You don't have to worry about any other. Well, let the network go off. Let the network go off. You still have you can interact, you can navigate, you can play around, you can do whatever you want with it, as long as you good. So that is it. So hybrid approaches combine the SPA and the SPA with SSR. Example using Node.js are common. So dark mode and theme customization. I don't know whether you noticed, almost every single application you use nowadays, it has dark mode and light mode. Almost every single, yeah. WhatsApp, name it. WhatsApp, Instagram, X, name it. Almost everything. Even ChatGPT, everything. It has a light mode and dark mode. So it's one of the trend now. It's one of the trend now. So and there's hybrid also. So you have to maybe choose whether you want the light mode, the dark mode. So personally all my apps are in the dark mode. I like them in the dark mode. Yes. So I don't know, but it's one of the trend actually to front end development. So providing users with dark mode and custom theme is becoming a standard requirement. So it is becoming a standard requirement for that. CSS variables and framework like Tailwind CSS make implementation themes easier. So for that, the Tailwind CSS, you can handle that easily with it. You can handle that easily with the Tailwind CSS, the theme customization and all that. So next we have sustainability and green coding. Sustainable web development practices are gaining traction, focusing on reducing energy consumption through code optimization and design. So what does it mean? Code optimization basically means that sometimes when development is going, developers, we tend to write so many lines of code, and at the end of the day, there are some codes we don't get to use them. They don't get to be used. Probably because when you're writing that code, you are not good enough. Maybe you are doing some trial and error. You are doing some trial and error, or probably the developer is not that skilled. It's not that skilled enough. So the approach he used might require maybe a 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code, or he's taking a different approach. So that will enhance, that will affect, of course, the optimization of the system in terms of speed and performance. So usually after development, after a successful system has been developed, tested, and everything, so what a good developer do, a good system is, you go back to the code and see, okay, which lines of code are not necessary, right? Which lines of code are not necessary? Okay, which ones do I need to? If I commented them, I need to remove them. Like, okay, this particular function, this particular function. Okay, I can actually write it in 1, 2 lines of code, and here I am. I'm using 7, 8, 9 because that time when I was doing, I didn't know. I wasn't skilled enough to use, but now I maybe discovered or maybe 1 or 2 things. So you can now go and change because the lesser lines of code you have in your design, the faster actually you run. The faster actually your system will run. So that is why code optimization is actually very, very important in the design. So the next we have a multi-device and multi-platform compatibility. It's actually a trend because now aside the computer, the tablet, and then the mobile phone, we have other devices too that run the application. We have the smart we have the smartwatches. We have the smartwatches, we have other gadgets and all that. So when you are designing a system, a website, so you have to take all that into consideration. Okay, you just have to design one system because you don't expect to design. Okay, I've given a project to design this. Okay, I'll design for desktop, web browser. I'll come and design for mobile phone. I'll come and design for tablet. No, 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 no. It's already a field project, I promise you. So you just have to look at it. You just have to look at it, you design it very well, and see, okay, how do I design once and then it fits all at the same time. Sorry? One size fit all. Yes. There are tablets, right? There are mobile phones. There is a computer screens of different sizes, right? So how do you develop once and then it fits all that? You take your iPad, you visit the same site, it fits in your iPad screen. See if it's designed for your iPad. Take your phone, you visit the same, it fits on your phone screen. You take everything, every kind of gadget. So that is another thing rather than before responsive website development, the technology before the introduction of the responsive web development, actually, when when the websites are being designed and all that, when you design it for a computer screen, it's just for a computer screen. That time, when you manage to open it on your phone, you have to be panning. You have to be panning to go side, then down, or up. You have to be panning. But now, because of the responsive design, the technology, once you open it on your mobile phone, it fits your mobile phone screen. So that is it. So the multi-device and multi-platform compatibilities ensures seamless experience across all devices, mobile, tablet devices, and even other gadgets. It's essential. Tools like responsive web design checker and frameworks like Flutter and web address need this. Absolutely. So now let's look at the future of front-end development, because everything you are going to do at the moment, I promise we have to be looking at the future because things change. When you don't look at the future and try to improve yourself, try to up your game, time will come where you'll be obsolete. Time will come where you'll be obsolete, and then they will now be looking for other guys that are up in the game. You'll be wondering why am I not having clients now? So it's very important to always look at it. So in the future trends for front end development, artificial and intelligent machine learning integration is something that is actually happening. So AI powered user interfaces. Front end application will incorporate AI for personalized user experience, such as content recommendation and dynamic layout and user behavior. For example, uh, and I'm sure, if not almost all, a lot of us know TikTok. A lot of us know TikTok and other social media. Or even YouTube. Let me take YouTube for example. When you play a certain video on YouTube, certain videos on YouTube related, you keep having some suggestion related to that, right? You keep having some suggestion related to that. You keep getting likewise with Instagram. When you keep looking for a certain kind of pictures, categories of pictures, you keep getting recommendations, suggestions, and all that, right? So, so that is another thing. So when your design, in your design, okay, how do I incorporate AI? For example, a chatbot. Your chatbot, because mostly now it's also becoming a trend. Like most businesses are incorporating chatbot because you don't have to hire somebody that will keep replying to inquiries, queries, and all that when a computer can be programmed to do all that. So customer service, and then you be paying the person's salary and all that. Maybe the person might not even be given the right information due to one or two factors and all that, you know. So that is it. So AI tool for developers, of course, they are coming. There are some AI tools now. All this I mentioned initially when we started teaching. When we started learning all this design, software development, and all that, we were writing codes from scratch. We opened a new, fresh Visual Studio Code, Notepad plus plus. We start from writing, okay, the Angular bracket, question mark, PHP, and all that. HTML, all those kind of things. We write them from scratch. But now there are tools. There are tools you just you just tell them okay, or just give them a recommendation of a kind of design you want. They'll give you some suggestion. They'll give you some designs ASAP. So your own is just to maybe tweak them. That is mostly what you do. For example, you can say, okay, I want to develop an application with a login screen. Okay, you want to say, I want a login screen. You can tell the AI system, okay, I want a login screen with a username and password, and then the logo in front, my logo in front, and then the button at the top, just put in your prompt, tell it what you want. It will just create something for you, and then it's left for you to do your own edition, do your own one or two things, yeah, what you want, and then replace it with the name of your business or company or whatever, your logo and all that, the design. So it's left for you to do some of the changes. But for that, even presently, they actually do exist. So next we have the augmented reality and virtual reality. Front end will expand into immersive experiences with augmented reality and virtual reality technologies, especially in e-commerce, education, and gaming. Who understands what augmented reality is? Okay, I'll explain what it means. Augmented reality and virtual reality. Okay. Basically, we says okay with AR and VR technologies, especially in e-commerce, education, and gaming. So basically, augmented reality is a technology, right, that enhances the reality, what you have in the reality. For example, now we have some augmented reality softwares that do exist, and we can develop some other augmented reality systems. So basically, the thing is, this monitor, this as it is now, I can just take my phone screen, right? Just look at it like this, and then on the screen, it will display a 3D model of it, like a virtual model of it, right? To create a virtual model of it, I can turn it around. I can look at the bottom, I can look at the top, I can rotate it 360, I can play around with it. Or for example, now I want to buy a car. For example, now I want to buy a car. Somebody will just snap the picture of the car and then send it to me. When the car comes, when the car comes in augmented reality, when I open it, I can be able to view the car in 3D. I can be able to view the car in 3D and turn around the image, and then look at it and say, no, there's a dent here. Go to the bottom of the car, even under the front bumper. You can just check, you can around the car, you can play around with it. Or that's augmented reality. It's a reality, it's augmented. However, it can also fit that I can also from here around the world, I can flash it. I can flash it also. I can flash it also on the floor, on the wall, and I can also see it. Like the car I want to buy. When they send the car I want to buy for me, a kind of projection, like I was in a projector, a kind of projection. So I can project the image on the wall. So that's augmented reality. So it's actually a future in front end development, whereby we said here in e-commerce. So in e-commerce, basically, you want to buy a shoe, you want to buy a bag in the e-commerce website. So on your phone, you can just get the image of the from the e-commerce website, and then you can just flash it on the wall. and then you can be turning around, you can be seeing it like I'm projecting it from a projector from your mobile phone. It's all part of the future trend in front end development. Likewise with virtual reality. Virtual reality, when you wear the virtual reality Oculuses, so you see everything in 3D, in reality. It's not here, but you see, you can walk in the streets of New York with virtual reality Oculuses. Yes, maybe you don't even know the road to the airport in your state, but you can be in New York. No, reality. We have a lot of them here. We employ the use of them. Yeah, so probably yeah. So it's also a future. It's a future. Yeah, it's a future that is coming up for front end development. So with tools like WebXR will enable developers to create browser-based virtual reality experiences. So that is it. So next we have increased focus on performance and speed. Performance and speed will always pop up when it comes to, because it cannot be overemphasized, it cannot be underrated. Users demand instant loading time and smooth interactivity. Technologies like the HTTP3, CDNs, and edge computing will make this possible. Prefetching and pre-rendering content using frameworks like Next.js will become standard. So then the rise of no-code, low-code platforms is actually the future of front-end development. So like I mentioned earlier, basically, you don't even have to program. You don't even know how to program. Somebody else, you just get these tools. Tools like Webflow, Bubble, and Editor X will enable non-developers to create complex front-end application. So you just give it your prompt. Okay, I want design of a website or mobile application with this with button here. The button does this and all this. You can just give it a prompt, everything, and it will design and develop everything for you. It will design and develop everything for you. But you as a human being, you know exactly what you want, right? And you know how you want it. So it's left for you to tweak it, to tweak it, to change it, to do some improvements on it, and all that. So that is just it. So developers will work more on customizing this platform rather than coding from scratch. So you see, you will not waste your time so much. You will not waste your time so much. So you just get these things and then move on. Before you know it, in lesser time, you'll be done with like 3 4 projects. That's more cash for you. 3 4 projects in a very short time, and then on to the next one. Before you know it, you keep cashing. So 3D graphics and interactive visual. 3D experiences powered by 3.js and Babylon.js will become more common, especially in e-commerce and design-heavy industries. Interactive 3D products display will revolutionize how users engage with online shopping. So common career roles in front-end development. So when you are very skilled in front-end development, you can become a front-end developer. Front-end developer which focuses on coding with the UI, user interface, and UX. And I trust you, they are always in high demand. Front-end developers are always in high demand into front-end developers because every single day there is one problem or the other. There are systems that are being developed, systems to be designed, and like we mentioned, how they look, how they interact is very important. How they look, how they interact is very important. Next, we have the UI UX developer, works on enhancing the usability and aesthetics of the application. As a front-end developer, you can be a web designer, designs layout and interfaces, but may have some overlap with development. And then you can specialize in you can specialize as a developer in React, Vue, Angular. So those are the possible career roles in front-end development, and they are always in high demand. There is always job unless you don't know where to get the job, unless you are not in the right cycle. are not in the right arena. But front-end developer are always in high demand. So now let's look at the user interface and user experience. So this is the second agenda on our module for this course, the user interface and user experience. So we'll briefly look at it. The user interface and user experience are complementary disciplines in design, but they serve distinct purposes and focus on different aspects of how the users interact with the product. You keep hearing UI UX, UI UX, user interface, user. I know, like it has been confusing for a lot of people because I received question on that. Okay, UI, what does it mean? User interface, user experience, UI UX, what does it mean? It's so confusing. But let's try to differentiate them here and then understand them properly. So what is user interface? User interface focuses on the visual design and interactive elements of a product. Just like I mentioned, the visual design and interactive element of a product. It encompasses everything a user sees and interacts with. That is user interface. It encompasses everything the user sees and interacts with on the screen. So the key aspect of user interface include the visual design. Visual design, okay, where do I want to place my logo? Where do I want to place the images on my screen? The footer, the header, everything. Where do you place all these things? Like where do you design? How do you make the designs and all that? And this visual design include colors, typographies, icons, and imageries. And then the aesthetic appeal, alignment, and branding. They are all part of the visual design. Next, we have the interactive elements. These interactive elements, they include buttons, sliders, input fields, drop-down, checkbox, etc. All these things are part of the user interface. They are called elements because interactive elements because you interact with them. You interact with the button by clicking on it, and then the sliders, you drag it side, left, right, up, down, right, and then the input fields where you type your name, any other information, and then the drop down checkbox and all that. So they're all part of the user interface. And then next, ensure smooth user interactions like hover effect and animation. All these are part of user interface. All these are part of user interface. So next we have the layout and spacing, organization of elements to create balance and readability. Okay, then how do you make your words on your website? How do you make it so easily readable? The line spacing, the space between the lines, even letter spacing, the spacing between the letters, the size, the text size, and all that, everything. Use of white space to avoid clutter, all that. Then consistency, very, very important. The design, very, very important. Consistency, uniform style and patterns across all the application. It's very, very important to make uniform styles and platform across all the application. And then the use of design system or framework like Material UI or Bootstraps. So, and then the goals of a user interface design is to create an aesthetically pleasing interface, and then to ensure cohesive look and feel across the product, as well as make interactive, intuitive, and visually guided design. So that is the goal of user interface. All right. So now let's look at the user experience. We've talked about the interface. Now let's look at the experience. Understand what exactly does it mean? To clear that gray area between the UI UX. The user experience focuses on the overall experience a user has when interacting with a product. It ensures the product is usable, efficient, and enjoyable. You see, you might have a very, very nice looking system, but it's not good in interacting. It's a kind of messed up system, like it doesn't really interact very well. So let's look at the key aspect of the user experience. User research, understanding the target audience, their need, and their pain point. Like I mentioned earlier, but this when you are designing the system, first of all, you have to look at the audience who are going to use this system. Okay, I'm designing a system for, let's say, student attendance and all that. So basically, it's students that are going to use the system. Okay, so how do I make it easy for them? Okay, so that they are going to school. Okay, they know how to use the system. But when you are to design a system, maybe that people on the line, maybe probably maybe the security people or probably people that are not really educated, how do you design to them that they will find it easy and simple to use? You have to take that into consideration. And next, creating user personas to guide decisions, right? So, for example, what that means is what that means is uh, when you are designing the system, right? Okay, if you want to perform a certain operation, certain task, and all that, how does the system behave? For example, now I want to log into a system, right? And then it's my account. I want to log into the system, but I forgot the password. After three attempts, what should happen? Security. It's all part of the thing to consider, as a user experience. Okay, okay, I'm the one. Okay, what if I'm not the one? Somebody is attempting, right? Somebody is attempting to get access into my system. What happens after a certain number of attempts, right? And all that. So that is that. Then information architecture, structuring content and navigation for easy access. Like we mentioned earlier, when you know the target audience you want to use your system, you want to majority use your system, you have to make things easy for them. You don't have to hide your navigation bar somewhere that when they look at it, they will have to go and find it. Where is this navigation bar? Where is this? When you make it visibly when they see it. Okay, they know. Okay, this is navigation. If I want to go to the home page, yeah, the next page. I want to click next. Keep it somewhere they will see it. Yeah, keep it somewhere they will see it. Not that I want to navigate to the next page. I want to click next, and I'll start looking at where is this next button. Where can I find it next button, and all that. So yeah, that is it. Design local flows and guide users towards their goal. So interaction design, crafting seamless workflows such as onboarding or checkout processes, minimizing friction in completing tasks. Like I mentioned earlier, when you want to query a system, maybe you've done a registration somewhere and then you are expecting your feedback. Maybe they say keep on checking your status and all that to see the status of your application. So maybe probably when you enter your application ID, automatically maybe probably based on the design of the system to make it easy, when you enter your application ID, you should just pop up your information when your information is correct rather than okay, uh, I entered my application ID. I have to scroll down and then go and click on the next button and then go and click on the proceed button and all that. As in the developer, the front end designer should save you that stress. You should be able to enjoy using the system. You should be able to enjoy using the system. As in, it should not take much of your time, much of your energy, and all that. Everything should be done, you know, smooth and direct. So it's all interactive design, user experience. So next we have the usability and accessibility, ensuring the product is easy to use for all, including those with disabilities. So it's a very nice thing. It's a very good thing to always consider people with some kind of disabilities when you're designing a system. So adhering to WCAG standards for accessibility. And then next, on the user experience, we have testing and iteration. which is conducting usability testing to identify issues. So basically, when the design of the system is done, it's the user experience team that will conduct testing to see, okay, how does this system works? How does it behave? Right? Where do we understand issue? Where do we have some fault? Okay, probably in the testing, you might say, okay, let's make some improvements here. The user should not the user should not stress himself by pressing here. Okay, let's just make this automatic, and all that. For example, scrolling. You can use some. There are some sensors. There are some mobile phones that do have some sensors that when you're looking at the screen, it follows your eyes. So when you're looking down, it scrolls. Yeah, it scrolls rather than you using your finger to swipe up. When you're reading, you don't need to use your finger to swipe up. So it follows your eyes. When your eyes are down the screen, it scrolls, scrolls, scrolls. So those are all kind of the user experience things. Yeah. So refining design based on user feedback. And yes, it's a very, very good thing during the testing. When you are testing with users, of course, you get their feedback. You are testing to get their feedback. Okay, they will say, no, please make this like this. This should behave like this, or this should be this. You as a developer, don't argue with them. Your goal is to develop, right? And then it's not for your own use. It's not for you to use it. You developed it as part of your business. You get paid for it. So whatever you do, you get paid for it. You're not the one to use it. So don't argue with the users. If they say this is how it should be, do it like that. Do it like that based on their feedback. So that is it. So the ultimate goal of UX design is to make the product useful and intuitive. If you design a system for a target audience that they are not enjoying using it, that it is giving them some issues, they are not understanding what it is, actually a very, very useless product because they will not use it. When it's stressing me, I rather stick to my local ways. I rather stick to my, what is it called, my traditional way of doing things, rather than a system that will just be cracking my head. So I have been used to the manual ways of doing things, paper and biro for so many years. Let me just rather continue, because this system will just be cracking my head all the time and be stressing me with clicks and all that. So ensure user satisfaction by addressing pain points. Pain points basically means what the clients do not really find as interesting to them. Don't really find as nice to them. So you have to do that. And then lastly, it's ensure the product meets both business goals and user needs. Very important. Very, very important. Because almost all the time, the systems are designed to solve a solution, right? And they are designed to solve these solutions with ease. That is the point of digitization most of the time, just to ease our ways of doing things from the manual traditional way that we know, record keepings and all that, all this kind of processing and all that. So we are designing a system now to ease all that. And at the same time, it's giving us problems. We throw it away. So the UX design ensures the product meets the business goal, the goal of the business. You have a big supermarket. You are used to using hardcover notebook, and then taking your inventory and then sales record and all that, and then they now bring to you inventory management system. But that inventory management system doesn't really aligns with your ways of with the ways you've been running your business. You will not use it because you feel like there will be some issue somewhere. So I rather stick to this one that my money will not I will not be putting my money at risk, right? And then the user needs, what are the needs? What do I want to be doing? Because yes, you might design a system, you might develop a system. It's working very perfectly, fine, everything, chop chop, but it doesn't satisfy my need, my requirement. It doesn't solve my problem. It's a very useless. It's very useless if it doesn't solve my problem. Why do I need it when I can still run my shop with hardcover notebook, and then you are giving me one inventory system that I will still, at the end of the day, I will still use I will still use calculator to calculate all the sales I've done. Hmm? It doesn't make sense. So it's very useless to me. I'd rather stick to my old ways. So basically, uh, let's sharply look at the comparison between the UI and the UX. So in the aspect of focus, the user interface looks and feel is the look and feel of the product, while the user experience how the product works and feel, right? And then so in the elements, we have the visuals under user interface, the visuals, typography, colors, layouts, while on the user experience, we have the user flow, the functionality, and then the usability. And then for goal, the goal of a user interface is to create a virtually appealing interface and then deliver a seamless, satisfying journey for user experience. And then the user interface involves graphics and visual design, while the user experience involves research, wireframe, and prototyping. The research we're talking about here is interacting with, try to look at your target audience. You know, try to look at your target audience, okay, your client, not really your client, okay. So what do you want? What is your requirement? Okay, how do I simplify this process for running this, for solving this your problem that you have? And then come and do the wireframes. Wireframe is basically like designing like a flow of how your application will be. Okay, when you open the application first, you see a splash screen. After the splash screen, it should display the login page. Okay, when you are not logging, there should be a button or a link somewhere that says, okay, register, kind of. So all that one, all the links, the pages and then their links, that is the wireframe. And then prototyping. Prototyping is just the visually how it looks, all that. So we have tools for user interface. We have tools like Sigma. It's online. You can go. You can check. You can check Figma.com. It's a prototyping tool. You can just go. Not limited to any type of prototype you want to do in terms of software. Is it website, mobile application, everything? You can just prototype it there. I think we have Azure AXURE. Actual, right? AXURE. We have Sketch, Adobe XD, and then Photoshop. And then for user experience, we have user testing, Hotjar. Okay, we have the Azure also here, and then the Proto.io. So the outcome of a user interface is aesthetic design. Mm. Yeah, aesthetic design. Very, very important, right? And then for user experience, we have intuitive and enjoyable experience. Intuitive and enjoyable experience. So that is it, the outcome. So how does a user interface and user experience work together? User experience and user interface are interconnected. They are actually are interconnected. While user experience ensures the experience is logical and user friendly, user interface makes sure it's visually engaging and intuitive to interact with. Mind you, like it keeps saying, presently, one of the things that considers your system, software system, everything successful is this. It's one of the factors that consider it very, very successful. If it will be successful. So, example, the user experience perspective determines the best way for users to navigate from the home page to checkout and in an e-commerce application. Secondly, it ensures the flow is straightforward and minimizing steps. when you can create something, when you can create maybe probably a login form or something, anything, any process in one or two steps, why make it up to 6, 4, 5, 6, 7? Try to make the user minimize his time, efforts and all that. That is just it. So we have the UI perspective, user interface perspective. Design a visually appealing checkout button. Second, and then the use of appropriate colors, typographies, and feedback animation. Example, button changes color when clicked. These are all kind of things. So, for example, you want to click on a button and then you hover your mouse over it, then it down lightens or darkens. All those kind of things. How you click? Okay, when you click it, what prompts up? All those kind of things. User appealing. So without user experience, the product may look great but difficult to use, right? And then without user interface, the product may work well but fail to attract or engage users. So that is it. So they work hand in hand. They are interconnected. That is being said. So let's quickly round up. I think it's almost time for the next session. So user interface and user experience in practice. So what are the deliverables of a user interface? The first deliverable of user interface is high fidelity design, right? And then style guides and design systems. We have interactive prototype showcasing visual elements. And then the deliverables of your user experience is user research reports and personas. Another deliverable is wireframe and low fidelity prototype, right? And then the next is usability testing results and flow diagram. So basically, what the deliverable means is that, sorry, outcome. Yes, that is the outcome at every point in time. So yes, the outcome when you're in the process. So that is this is. So thank you very much. So in the next class, we will continue from where we stopped. We continue from where we stopped. So probably over time, probably by next upper week, we will look at how to practically do these things, everything that we mentioned. So we look at the in depth, the coding, the design and everything by the grace of God. So yes, you will have it. I'll send it to the classroom. Yes. Sorry? Sorry? Yes, that's what I want to check. Caller. So from our online participants, I have not heard you any interact. Yes, I will make them available to you via the classroom. No, I wasn't the one that took that of last week, but for this one, I will make it available to you subsequently. And aside this, I'll make other materials available to the classroom. I'll make it available online. Other materials. Yes, absolutely. There's what we call, aside the front end developer, the back end developer, we have the full stack. Full stack, somebody that does their full stack. As a full stack is